What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today I'm going to showcase some Diggersby here in the Open Great League. It's my favorite ground-type Pokemon, at least for now, in the Open Great League. The worst thing is, I'm actually recording this video here before I head out to the World Championships, so if there's a moveset update that's announced there, then I honestly have no idea this Pokemon's going to be any good next season, but right now it is my favorite Pokemon to use, at least my favorite ground-type, in this current meta. So let's get to the battles and see what this Pokemon can do. Let's get right on into the first game of the day. Shadow Drifblim up against the Gastrodon. Does not get much better than that here. Let's see if our opponent's going to stay in. They probably have to swap out. They stay in at least for a second, but then they switch into their Shadow Talonflame. We don't really have a great answer to this Pokemon, honestly. Shadow Talonflame, one of the newest released Shadows in the entire Pokemon Go franchise. I guess we'll see what they want to do here. Flame Charge as a charge attack. I think we will take one more extra Incinerate, but we can go for a full Astonish down here. Just fast move them all the way down. We have a lot of energy against whatever they might bring in the back line. Our opponent is thinking here for just a second. They bring in another Mono Fire Pokemon. I could have gone for an extra Astonish there, but I didn't really know what they'd bring in. I went for the Icy Wind instantly. Our opponent does Shield. I can go one more Astonish, go for the Shadow Ball as well. This likely will draw a Shield here from them because this Typhlosion is such a squishy Pokemon. Down goes their second Shield here. Drifblim putting in so much work, but now Diggersby can come in, absorb all of the damage from this Typhlosion, and if we see that Gastrodon come back in, go in with our own Shadow Scizor and try to whittle it down. So at this point, I know our lose condition this game is if I were to try to go for a Trailblaze here, I go for a shield against this Gastrodon, and then they farm us down with that Typhlosion, double blast for our Diggersby. I don't want to let that happen, so instead, I play it safe. I go for the Night Slash here, I save my shield on my Diggersby, and I don't give that Typhlosion a huge farm down. So I'm going to be able to come in with our Diggersby, build up energy myself, survive whatever charge attacks they're going to throw here, and get to back-to-back moves on my Diggersby. In comes a Water Pulse, actually, so they do have the Water-type coverage. Interesting to see. Don't normally see that in this day and age. I go for the Scorching Sands, knowing at this point they're only at 4 Incinerates. They need a 5th Incinerate if they ever want to reach another move, so I should be able to get the knockout here, be just one more quick attack away from my Scorching Sands against this Typhlosion, and we should be able to go for the move here in just a second. They go for the Thunder Punch bait. That's not going to help them out much here. I can go for that Scorching Sands, one-shot the rest of this Typhlosion. Diggersby able to close out game number 1. And comes that Scorching Sands, down goes Typhlosion. GG there to our opponent. All right, next game, let's see. Shadow Drifblim up against the Shadow Steelix, a much worse ground-type Pokemon for us to see here. Honestly, a little bit of a core breaker for our team, saying that our Shadow Scizor in the backline also has resisted damage against this thing. Our Diggersby is obviously our best pick into this Pokemon. I'm going to stay in, though, for just a second here. I'm going to go for the Astonish damage, no shield, a Breaking Swipe, it looks like, and then go for an Icy Wind. I was going to try to go for a shield bait there, but they actually catch on a Gastrodon. That is an insane call. I guess at this point, though, I have my Diggersby I can bring in, go for a Scorching Sands, try to farm them down here, and use the energy against whatever they might have in the back line. In comes a charge attack. The last Gastrodon we saw did, in fact, have Water Pulse. Is this one going to follow suit? No, it is Earth Power. Luckily, at -1 attack, it doesn't do all that much damage here, and Diggersby already has nearly 100 energy. I can throw a Scorching Sands. Will we get a shield? If we do, then we get a second Scorching Sands off very shortly after. It's going to be no shielded. We get another attack drop there, and we get a full quick attack down before the next Earth Power will be reached. In comes what here? Probably not the Steelix. That'd be kind of crazy. Our opponent actually is crazy. They bring in the Shadow Steelix. I can't believe they brought this Pokemon back into us here. Scorching Sands might knock him out. It's going to be close. Not quite the KO, but the final Pokemon revealed as a Shadow Galarian, a triple ground team. I guess our Drifblim has a lot of play into the backline. Unfortunately, that Steelix has put in quite a bit of work against us, so I'm going to see what we can do here. Shadow Punch, or rather Fire Punch, does draw a shield. They have a Shadow Punch now. Next Fire Punch will be thrown. This move should get either the second shield, or if they let it go, I should be able to farm this down. They do let that Pokemon take that damage, and you can see just how squishy Shadow Galarian is. I can bring in Shadow Scizor, Bullet Punch them all the way down here. Just Fast Food Pressure is all I really need to win this game. Our opponent concurs. We see the top left. GG there to them. All right, next game, Shadow Blim up against Shadow Quagsire. A fantastic lead matchup here, especially because our backline is a little bit soft to this Pokemon. We end up seeing a Shadow Drapion on the safe swap, and while I do have 2 good answers for this in the backline, I like to kind of play it out in an interesting way. I'm going to go for the Icy Wind here after shielding up a Crunch. That way, I likely get a shield back. If they let it go as well, I can quick attack all the way down with Diggersby. And if they do let this move go, then it's going to be a good spot for us. If they do shield as well, then I guess we have our shields back. I can go for the nice farm down with our Shadow Scizor, shield a single time, tap our phone screen, and make sure this Pokemon gets knocked out. Have some Trailblaze energy for that Quagsire if it comes back in. They do go for the Crunch, so they won't even get an Aqua Tail off into us. And now, what are they going to do? Unfortunately, it's not going to be the Quagsire we see. Instead, it's the Talonflame that comes in. Our team is a little bit soft to this Pokemon, especially down shields. This Pokemon can put in work. Luckily, we get a boost. I don't think that boost really matters, saying that they're going to shield this move almost certainly one way or another, but they're going to farm us all the way down with the Incinerates. In comes our Diggersby here, and now I know there is still that Quagsire in the backline. That could be a little bit tricky to deal with, but I'm going to try my best with Diggersby to knock out this Talon if I can. It's going to be close. I don't know if this is quite enough damage here to KO this Pokemon. In comes that Scorching Sands. No, they survive on what is almost certainly 1 HP here. We can survive whatever they're going to throw, and this Quick Attack should knock him out before the second charge attack is going to be thrown, but Brave Bird does a massive amount of damage to us. I'm going to swap out into our Shadow Drifblim before they can do anything about it. This way I can at the very least get an Icy Wind through before a Stone Edge will be reached. We just barely outpace here. Our opponent is likely going to try to get to a Stone Edge and an Aqua Tail to win this game. It's going to be kind of close at this point. I think that a Stone Edge will still one-shot us despite the debuff to their attack stat. I don't have any shields remaining. Down goes our Shadow Drifblim. In comes our Diggersby once again here. Our opponent just barely reaches the move before us. This is going to be, I think, almost certainly a knockout. Aqua Tail should knock us out here. But Mud Bomb, hold on. They're on Mud Bomb Stone Edge. We survived that move. Bailed out by the moveset of the Shadow Quagsire. That is insane. Fire Punch should get the KO against this Pokemon. Somehow Diggersby able to hang on with 1 HP and close out that match. GG there to our opponent. All right, next game, Shadow Caesar up against our Shadow Drifblim. This is a pretty interesting matchup here, but they actually swap out. I was going to say, if they do stay in, then it is pretty playable for our Shadow Drifblim. You just shield once and can farm all the way down, or you might have to shield twice, actually, to do that, but you normally can go for a full farm down against them, but they do swap out. I don't quite understand why. I guess Golisopod with Shadow Claw is a decent Pokemon into our team, though. I don't have a great hard counter to this thing. I'm going to try our best here to whittle it down with our Icy Wind and Astonish damage, and then I actually bring in, might be a bit of a crazy play here, I bring in my Diggersby, knowing that at -1 attack, we don't get 2-shot, and Shadow Claw is the fast move, is going to be much better for our normal type than that Fury Cutter moveset would be. They go for yet another charge attack here. I know that we do survive this attack. I am almost at 100 energy. I can go for a Fire Punch against this Golisopod and keep a lot of energy against whatever they might bring in. If that Shadow Caesar does come back in, your Fire Punch one-shots them. If they bring in anything else, then I guess we'll play it by ear. Our opponent brings in the Azumarill, and at this point, I don't really want to give him a huge farm down. I know Shadow Caesar likely does wall all of the energy from this Pokemon, but I don't want to be in a spot where they have 100 energy, they start spamming out charge attacks against us, and we're in a bad spot, so instead I swap out to our Shadow Caesar, and we are met instantly by their own Shadow Caesar. In comes a Night Slash. Our opponent does no-shield the move here. The next Bullet Punch, not quite enough to knock out. They survive the attack, getting off a parting gift of a Night Slash. This is going to draw our final shield, and this endgame is honestly going to be just a little bit closer than I'd like it to be. I should be able to get a decent amount of damage off with my Shadow Caesar. They were at a play rough right there, so I wanted to make sure that I could get this Night Slash off. If they no-shield this, honestly, that's probably for the best here. They do no-shield, and I think at this point, I just have to commit to fast move pressure, try my best to whittle down this Azumarill as much as I can. They go for that play rough. Down goes my Shadow Caesar, but Drifblim can come in here, potentially go for an Icy Wind, and our Diggersby, while it is low on HP, it has some quick attack damage ready to go against this as well. In comes that Icy Wind. Is this enough to knock him out? It should at least draw the shield. Our opponent does shield it up. In comes our Diggersby. Our opponent realizing at this point they don't have enough HP remaining. They top left, and Diggersby able to close it out against an Azumarill in the back. All right, next game, a Dusclops up against our Shadow Drifblim, a fantastic Pokemon for us to see here. It is a little bit awkward in the 0s and 1s where they can outpace us, but in the 2-shield matchup, you just tap your way all the way through this Pokemon, so I want to make sure that this thing is out of the way so our Diggersby does not have to deal with it. They go for that Shadow Punch here. I'm going to go for a charge attack here on what might be a CMP, but they overfarm just a little bit. In comes the next Shadow Ball. An Icy Wind might be enough to draw a shield, but I want to guarantee it. I go for the Shadow Ball. They do shield, and at this point, in comes their next Shadow Punch. I think we can easily Astonish all the way down at this point. We should be able to knock him out with the next Astonish here. Our opponent is going to not quite get to another move. We're able to farm down. In comes an Azumarill. And we do have a lot of energy here on Drifblim. I do have my Shadow Caesar that technically does resist all the damage this Pokemon can throw, but as we've seen, Caesar is not a bulky Pokemon, so even though we do technically resist it, it can put in quite a bit of work into us. I try to catch an Ice Beam, doesn't quite work out, but maybe they still threw it anyway, likely either a Play Rough or an Ice Beam being thrown right now. Gonna be, okay, it is an Ice Beam, love to see that, so Drifblim is still around. We ended up baiting out a Shadow Caesar as well, which is a little bit uncomfortable depending on how much energy they get out of this matchup. I do have a lot of energy on my Shadow Drifblim, but if they have like 8 or 9 Bullet Punches, which it looks like they're gonna have, I think, 8 here, they are going to be able to get to a Trailblaze plus a Night Slash against my Diggersby before I'm able to get to a Fire Punch. So instead, I'm going to sacrifice my Drifblim. I'm going to make sure at this point that they invest at least some energy here. I should be able to Fire Punch this. I should be able to go for a Scorching Sands or maybe a Fire Punch if I need to against that Azumarill. And hopefully this game's going to be ours, but this Trailblaze is going to do quite a bit of damage to us. Can we take all the damage that is left in this game? Trailblaze comes through, puts us down pretty deep into the yellow. Azu comes back in. I know they're pretty low on energy, so I'm going to overfarm just enough here that I can outpace that Shadow Caesar almost certainly to a Fire Punch. Is this scorching enough? It does knock out the Azumarill. We're just 3 more quick attacks away from the Fire Punch. We can outpace the Shadow Caesar, guarantee the knockout. Diggersby, once again in the back line, closing out the game. Down goes the Shadow Caesar. GG there to our opponent. All right, next game, let's see what we have in store for our Shadow Drifblim. It's going to be a Shadow Typhlosion, and this Pokemon is something that I'm very happy that our Shadow Caesar does get to avoid, but Astonish as well as Incinerate are both shredding through each other's HP. They go instantly for a Thunder Punch. A little bit of bad timing here. Might make it a little bit easier for us to farm down. We shield that attack up here. We're going to go for an Icy Wind at the last second, trying to get a shield from them, or potentially just knocking them out before they can get their next Thunder Punch off. If they shield us up, I think going for a catch on our Diggersby could be a good play. They kind of have to instantly throw them, and they do go for the shield. We catch on our Diggersby. A -1 Thunder Punch is going to do absolutely nothing to our Diggersby here. Yeah, and at this point, they're also in range where we can easily bullet punch them down with our Shadow Caesar before even an Incinerate would register. So I think we're in a pretty good spot. Scorching Sands coming through this move is going to do a decent chunk of damage to this Azum. It's not going to one-shot them by any means, but I think 3 Scorching Sands will start to threaten their HP. So if they try to farm us down here, it's not going to be that good of a matchup for them. Here comes an Ice Beam. We do survive. No debuff against this Azu, unfortunately, with that Scorching Sands, but because we have another one ready to go, we can start chipping them down even more and making it a little bit less tricky for us to deal with in the back. In comes that next Scorching Sands. Our opponent is going to get debuffed this time. You absolutely love to see it. They throw an Ice Beam before my next charge attack will be reached. Diggersby will go down, but I think our Shadow Caesar should be able to put in some work here. In comes Shadow Caesar. What is their final Pokemon going to be? It's a Diggersby, and honestly, this is a little unfortunate because I'm not up enough energy to get to 2 Trailblazes before they're going to be able to get to 2 Fire Punches. It will be a little bit awkward. I think I might need to go for a catch at some point. They go for that Fire Punch instantly. I'm hoping at this point that we can either make the proper catch, or maybe at this point they let this go. In comes that Trailblaze. They do end up shielding it up. And now I'm going to try to catch if I can on our Drifblim, but our opponent is very wise. They end up overfarming. And now, even though I do reach this Icy Wind, I don't think it's going to matter. It's not going to be enough damage here to knock them out. They survive, and I think they just get to back-to-back Fire Punches, and they should be able to win the game. In comes that Fire Punch. This should knock us out despite the debuff. And while our Shadow Caesar is not going to get one shot from full HP by a Fire Punch, especially at a -1 attack, I think that this should be enough chip damage against us that the Fire Punch is still going to knock us out. Unfortunately, not quite able to survive that move there. GG to our opponent. All right, next game is a Pokemon, honestly, our whole team loves to see. Quagsire is not bad for any one of our Pokemon. They safe swap a Lapras, a bit of a slow swap out by us here. Wanted to make sure I knew what Pokemon was coming in. There's a chance it's like a Dugong. That's the Pokemon I'm thinking of here. But honestly, I guess even if it is Dugong, probably Shadow Caesar is our best counter to it. So should just swap instantly in this matchup. I'm going to go for the Trailblaze as soon as I can. I want to ramp up my Bullet Punch damage if possible here. Our opponent likely will shield. They do shield the attack. They'll get my second shield with the next Sparkling Aria, but because of my attack boost, I think we will be able to go for the full farm down, make sure we have energy against the backline, and this should be a little bit tricky for our opponent to deal with. In comes the Faster Pressure, just barely farm them down before their next Sparkling Aria will be reached, and in comes a Mandibuzz in the backline. So at this point, we do know their entire team. We've seen that there's a Quagsire as well, and so I think at this point, if we can just whittle down this Mandibuzz enough, then our Diggersby in the backline should be able to close out the game against potentially that Quagsire that we saw. Trailblaze number 2 already reached against his Pokemon. This is going to do a decent amount. It's at +2 attack already. Yeah, puts him deep into the red, into range where I'm going to go for a full Astonish down against them. This way I can outpace that Quagsire, even if they have Stone Edge. Go for an Icy Wind. They're not going to get to a second foul play here. Our opponent realizing that swaps out to Quagsire. We have the Icy Wind ready to go. But at this point, I think they just have to hope that I'm really weak to this Pokemon in the backline. Unfortunately for them, a debuffed Quagsire, especially into a Diggersby, is going to have almost no play. We're able to take the win. GG to them. Next matchup is a Shadow Caesar in the lead. Let's see if they play it out this time. I've seen a lot of Shadow Caesars kind of just swap out of this matchup. Once again, they swap out into a Lapras. I bring in my Shadow Caesar, and again, I do a bit of a slow swap here, but honestly, the Astonish damage is going to add up quite a bit as well against them, so we should be able to go for a full shield and farm down against this Pokemon. Let's see what they want to do. We're going to go for that Trailblaze as soon as we can. Once again, want to ramp up my attack as quickly as I can here. Bullet Punch is going to shred through their HP, potentially give us an energy lead against the backline. They do end up shielding that attack here. Bullet Punch is ripping through their HP right now. Can I farm them all the way down here? It's going to be close once again. Lapras, if they're on the high rank variant, could potentially survive the next 3 Bullet Punches. This one is able to survive. I didn't want to risk it there. DRE is always a cruel thing if I ended up going for the farm down and they just barely hit that next Sparkling Aria off. That could have been bad. I'm going to go for the guarantee, make sure I get the knockout here, and see who they bring in. I would anticipate at this point Shadow Caesar will be brought back in here. It is exactly what we end up seeing, and this is actually a little bit tricky for us right now. I know that I could stay in this matchup and give him a huge farm down, but both the Dark and the Grass type damage would be pretty bad for our backline, so I don't want to give him a big farm down. Instead, I come in with our Diggersby, they go for a Trailblaze, and while this is going to be super effective, I am happy they're throwing energy here, rather than doing something annoying like keeping a Night Slash for my Drifblim later on this game. They come in with a Unova Stumpus, they try to catch a Fire Punch there, but luckily we were just a little bit too patient. We go for the Scorching Sands, and I think at this point, this game is going to be ours. We don't get knocked out by a single Mud Bomb here. The next Scorching Sands is going to put him low. We can farm this down with our Shadow Drifblim, go for an Icy Wind against that Shadow Caesar later on this game, and we should be able to win this one. So this is taking a second here to register. Oh, our opponent must have closed the app. They're done with this game. They've realized at this point, Ufisk is not going to close out the game like they'd want to. I'll go for this Scorching Sands, see if this is enough to knock out. But yeah, whenever your opponent just like force closes the app like this, it always takes a second to finish the actual game here. Scorching Sands, number 2, lands against them. It knocks them out. And now I'm going to bring in my Shadow Drifblim. Every time you throw a charge attack when your opponent quits out of the game like this, it's just quicker to go for a fast move down if you can. While I do have a Fire Punch loaded, I think a couple of Astonishes will finish it off just a little bit quicker. Down goes that Shadow Caesar. GG there to them. Well, I guess maybe not GG if they force quit the app, but even still, I guess next game is a Dunsparce in the lead, and we have to get out of there. Shadow Caesar comes in, and a Talonflame. Oh my goodness, this is not a great matchup for us right now. Honestly, about as RPS as it can get. We're going to go for the Night Slash here, try to get any chip damage that we can. But I don't really have a great answer to that Dunsparce. I mean, I guess my best answer is my Diggersby, but this Talonflame especially is up energy. It's going to be pretty tricky to deal with, and it seems like this might just be a hard RPS game. I'm not quite sure if we're going to have enough to win this one. We'll have to try our best, though. In comes the next move here. The Fly will be thrown, but because they throw in kind of bad timing, it can actually get the full farm down before a second Fly will be thrown, so I guess that's good, but we're still getting very much RPS at the moment. Drifblim does have almost no play against a rollout Dunsparce, so in comes our next attack here. Icy Wind will put a debuff onto them. In the back is an Azumarill. There's not much that we can do there. All right, next game, Drifblim up against the Galarian Corsola. All right, very neutral matchup. I know here that if they want to, they can probably just go for a full shield and farm down against us. Their Astonishes do just a bit more of a higher percentage of our HP than we're able to do to them, so they can, if they want, just brute force their way through this. They don't actually throw a Nightshade here, which is kind of interesting. I thought they'd go for a charge attack to try to get at least shield parity, but instead they let the full farm down happen, and I can just absorb all the energy on my Diggersby. I would expect to swap out, but no, they're staying in, which is also kind of interesting. I mean, Power Gem and Nightshade, both not going to do that much damage to us here. I can go for the no shield any day of the week, build up about 100 energy, and then if I need to here, if they dump all their energy, I can probably bring in my Shadow Caesar and go for a Bullet Punch down, get a ton of energy on both of my Pokemon. Let's see what they're going to do. They're still staying in. They must really want to switch against my Diggersby here. Probably a little bit ABA weak to this Pokemon. In comes yet another charge attack. I think at this point, it could be a good idea to swap into Shadow Caesar, get an energy lead, and see who they want to bring in. And I guess that makes sense. It's a Tinkaton in the backline. That's why they didn't want to swap out, because our Diggersby would be fantastic into that Pokemon. In comes a Night Slash. I wanted to throw right before their next Bulldoze just to make sure I could deny them a full charge attack. In comes the move, or a full fast attack, that is. Bulldoze comes through. No debuff, please. No, they do debuff instantly. Don't love to see that, but now we can go for the Trailblaze on CMP with the next Bulldoze. If they shield this up, then that reeks of desperation here. That means that my Shadow Caesar is going to have a lot of play into the backline. Our opponent does shield, so at this point, I might as well match shields, go for the full farm down with a boosted Shadow Caesar. I don't really know what they could have in the backline that could beat us at this point. I mean, there's probably something like a Talonflame would be a little bit annoying, but they actually hard pivot to a Shadow Quagsire. We can just go for the Trailblaze, get a guaranteed knockout against this thing, and then our Diggersby in the backline with so much energy, as well as my boosted Shadow Caesar at this point is going to be almost unstoppable. Yeah, our opponent realizes that, they top left, and we're able to take the win. Next game is a Shadow Caesar on the lead once again. This Pokemon is absolutely everywhere right now in the Go Battle League. It makes sense. It's such a good Pokemon. It has a lot of great neutral matchups. It has a lot of play, especially if you get boosts. I think our Shadow Drifblim is going to try its best here to go for a one shield and farm down. Night Slash comes through. Are we able to go for the farm down? This one is not a high rank Shadow Caesar. We're able to farm them down. Some Shadow Caesar actually force a second shield out of that matchup there, which is kind of awkward. In comes a Blastoise. We go for a very bold Icy Wind bait, but honestly, Blastoise is a little bit uncomfortable for a full team, so I'm going to go for the Ice Wind, trying to get a shield, and then if possible, go for the Shadow Ball after the fact. We did get that shield. If this ends up landing, that is probably the best case scenario. This is my easiest way to do real damage to this Blastoise. They let it go. Down goes like 90% of their HP, and in the backline is a very cool Pokemon, the Shadow Altered Form Giratina. This is going to be a Pokemon, though, that our Shadow Caesar has a ton of play into. Night Slash, as well as Bullet Punch, is going to add up quite a bit. We resist the Dragon-type damage as well. If they were on Shadow Claw, this might be just a little bit more annoying, but luckily for us, it is Dragon Breath on this moveset. In comes that Ancient Power. We do shield it up. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised to see the Ancient Power. I think Dragon Claw could have also got our shield, and maybe they could have outpaced us to the next move, but I think either way, our Diggersby in the backline is way too healthy. There's really not much they could do to knock it out with that low HP Blastoise either. We knock out that Giratina, we knock out the Blastoise, and Caesar able to close out the backline. GG there to our opponent. And with that, closing out the day with a 4-1 set here, Shadow Drifblim and Diggersby has been one of my favorite duos here in this season. Diggersby is honestly one of those basic Pokemon that you can use right now. It's a very overpowered thing. It has Scorching Sands to debuff your opponent's attack. Very bulky, very good typing. Once again, you guys know what the moveset update could potentially be if it has been released. I, past Axon here, do not know. So Diggersby, for now, in my little mind, it is still a very powerful Pokemon. I guess we'll see what happens to it next season. All right, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.